Greetings and salutations, folks. I hope everyone is doing well and welcome to today's upload. Before we jump on into it, a quick couple of links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, so today's upload is a tragic experience that was shared with me late last night. Subscriber was in the live stream last Saturday, and 59th, if you're out there, you are the hero for this one because you were the mod that put my email in the comment section for this person. They have been emailing me, but for some reason, and I've said this numerous times, and I don't know why people miss it, maybe, I don't know, but I get somewhere between 12 to 1,700 emails a day. I'd say 200 of them are from subscribers. And for some reason, I try to respond to all of them, even if it's, hey, I got your email, thank you, yada, yada. But if I don't respond, and I say this numerous times, it means I didn't get it. So this person has been trying to email me and thought they had the wrong email address for the last couple of months. And he had, a couple of months ago, about 6 months ago, he had a kind of a deathbed confession with his dad. His dad opened up to him about something that happened in his family. We were finally able to connect, and I was just kind of taken back by the experience because it's very, very tragic. Also, the email thing, I don't know what is going on with it because I don't get spam subscriber mails, or I don't get subscriber emails in my spam box. Normal people do. I don't. There's been times that I've been waiting on an email from somebody and did not receive it. So, it's like, all right, what's going on? I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to jump down a conspiracy rabbit hole right now. So, Trevor is 33 years old. He's grown up in Indiana all of his life, Paoli, Indiana. And he grew up as an only child. Very happy childhood. His mom and dad are fairly well off, if not better than fairly well off. They have his parents own a beautiful home, large home in Paoli. And in Hoosier National Park, there is a private, it literally looks like a town. There's a private campground in there. It has road signs, this, and that. And his parents own a cabin there, a 5-bedroom, 2-bath cabin. So they're very well off. His dad was not one of those. His dad worked very hard his whole entire life to achieve what he has. It wasn't handed to him. And growing up, they had always gone to the cabin every year. But there was like kind of a strict regiment or protocol going there. You know, you don't go out after a certain amount of time. If you do, you bring an adult with you. You always let someone know where you're going. And this is a private campground, you know, and not a unsafe place. So he was always kind of sheltered. As he grew older, the strictness was kind of harder to enforce. His parents, you know, you're 16, 17, 15, 16, 17. You respect your parents, even if you're like a good kid, super good. You always respect your parents. But as a kid, we kind of push our limits. You know, you got friends, you want to hang out with them. You got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you want to hang out with them. You know, it's just that growing up. And as he continued to get older, he would push the boundaries. And one night he was 16 years old, and they had been at their cabin, and he had met a girl who was her family was friends with his mom and dad, but she was not from Indiana. She was from like New Jersey, and just visiting family. But he and her kind of head over heels for each other. And he had ended up sneaking out of the cabin that night. I should just say house, because it's a freaking house, you know. It's a 2-car garage, 5-bedroom, 2-bath cabin. Wow. And he sneaks out. They meet up at like this little location where they were just going to chill. And they got a really creepy feeling. They got a really like just a feeling like something was watching them. They were sitting at like this kind of, there's a little playground area there. And they were sitting on a picnic table. He remembers hearing branches and leaf litter debris kind of getting kicked around and moved around like something was walking. She had noticed that there was some sort of red eye shine off to the distance. And there was just this loud howl. One singular howl. And like 3 minutes later, his dad and this girl's uncle pull into the area where they are. Like SWAT. Like he said it was like SWAT. It was like the police were here and they were after us like we were the Escobar clan, you know, like it was bad. At 16 years old, both of them, they had gotten their asses reamed. And the thing about this is the girl's uncle was just as upset. Like, you can't be out in this area after this amount of time. You can't do this. We told you that if you were going to come out and visit with us, that you couldn't. You'd have to follow the rules at the campsite. Back at the house, it's a whole different ball game. But when we're here, it's... And he kind of remembered that as like, wow, that's really kind of messed up. Why is everybody like on our asses? I can't even, after dusk, riding his bike when he was younger, in his own driveway, his parents would like watch him like a hawk. So time goes on and he's at college. He's a couple of hours away, less than a couple of hours away. And it's literally, a drive, it's not like so far pile a few friends in and head out for the weekend. And that's exactly what they did. 2 carloads, 10 people, and they all converged at his family's camp. Mom and dad are in the town, and it's still, this area is still Paoli, but this private campground, like I said, is in Hoosier National Park. The town of Paoli is just up a little ways. So, he's 18, 19, and they're partying. Really good group of kids. He played basketball, so they were all respectful. But once again, 18-year-old kids, being kids, experimenting with, alcohol, just living life. And they're hanging out. There's a fire pit or a fireplace in the back that was very seldom used, and at night, even by his parents. If they were going to have friends at the camp, his mom and dad, they would have it out until a certain hour, and then they would go up onto their balcony. Interestingly enough, the balcony off of the second floor has no stairwell going off of it. It is an enclosed deck. So, which always seemed kind of weird, we're at camp. Why isn't there stairs going down so we can go in our backyard? So that's where the family would hang out, is there. Now, they have their party. They start a fire. Few of the guys stay outside, and it's not all guys. There's like 6 dudes, 4 girls. His girlfriend was with him. So a couple of the guys were outside, not all of them, but a couple. And all of a sudden, they come running into the house, just screaming, upset, out of breath, in sheer panic, pale white, screaming about some sort of monster that's out in the woods beyond their cabin. And he's like, what are you talking about, monster? So Trevor and a couple other guys go out and look around. Mind you, there's no firearms in this cabin. His dad, very anti-firearms, which, that's his own choice. Trevor is not. So they run out and they look around. They don't see anything. They extinguish the fire in the fireplace, the outdoor fireplace thing. And they go back inside. He questions the people that were outside. Like, what do you mean? What did you see? What did you hear? You know, in a typical fashion of, we want to know what's going on. This is my cabin. What the hell did you see? Monster. Like, we're in college, you know, you're acting like a child. This is all things he's thinking of. And all they said was, the only look we got of this thing was that it was very large, very tall, very heavy sounding. And it had just these blood red eyes. It seemed to self-illuminate, and there was a growl standing in the woodline. So not really, there's no housing behind, no other cabins behind. They are second house to the end of this road, and the other house is across the street. So it's like isolated, but not really. But there's no light behind the house. So it's all just wood going into Hoosier National Forest. And they keep asking, you know, what? And they just red eyes, very tall. And it kind of growled. It made this very loud, not like a dog, but not like a big cat. Just a weird growl that seemed to sound like it almost had like a vocabulary to it. Some sort of like, just if it was almost like a speech, like a speech pattern. And they kind of blew it off. Like, what are you talking about, you know? They go to bed. Next morning, get up, clean up so he doesn't get in trouble, just in case mom and dad decide to come down for the camp, you know, while he's back at college. They clean up, and one of the carloads of kids leave. His girlfriend, one of his buddies, and his girlfriend are going to ride with Trevor and his girlfriend. So 4 people stay behind. 6 are gone. And they're just making sure everything's cleaned up. It's a Saturday night. They were like, maybe we can't stay one more night. Everyone's gone. It can just be us. We can do like a couple thing. You know, watch some TV, whatever. And they almost decide to do it, but his friend's girlfriend remembered that she had some sort of paper to write or some sort of test that she had to study for. Obviously, it's been years, so he doesn't exactly remember what it was. He's 33 now, so, you know, this is years ago. And they pack up everything, kind of do a run through of the house to make sure everything's picked up, turned off, and good to go, locked up. They get in the car and they're pulling out of this private campground, campground, whatever, camp neighborhood. And they pull out onto one of the main roads to get out of the forest. And he's driving. He's going about 35 miles an hour in like a 20 dirt road. And he has to lock up the brakes and everyone else saw this and thought the exact same thing. Holy shit, we just saw a bear run across the road in front of us. And his girlfriend goes, I don't think that was a bear. It had a tail. And he's like, I didn't see a tail. Did you guys? And of course, they got a very small glimpse of it because they're in the back seat. So now you have a car full of 4 college-age kids debating on whether they just saw a bear with a tail or a very large wolf. Like, too large to be a wolf, too large to be even a idea of it being a wolf. And they're obviously looking out the window. They don't see it. It just went across the road very rapidly and gone. They agree to disagree that, you know what, guys, whoever believes that it was a bear, that's what it was. Whoever believes that it was a wolf, that's what it was. Let's just get out of here and move along. They get back to college, no issues. Years go by, and he meets the love of his life. He gets married, and they have 2 twins. They are they're obviously, his new wife and the kids are always at the cabin on vacation with the family. It's just their family home. It's like a summer home kind of, but in the woods. He catches his mom talking to his wife about the dangers of camp and how when the camp is theirs, eventually, keep an eye on the kids. Don't let them out after night. There's a lot of weird things out there, just dangerous things. She actually, they don't know, the parents still don't know about that trip that he took in college. So they don't know what he saw. They don't know what his friend saw. But she kind of almost hints to there being something dangerous and possibly supernatural in those woods. She passes away of cancer when his kids are 2. And at that point, the family is just kind of, his dad, him, his wife are just heartbroken. Because when I say, Trevor talking to him, granted his mom and dad were wealthy, like I said, 5-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage camp is just, it's bigger than the house I live in. God. It's insane on top of the house that they have in Paoli, just they are just, exceptional people. Hinting around to a supernatural kind of entity, but not really. About a year and a half goes by, and his dad, Henry, or Hank, said, listen, I'm going to put the house and the cabin in your name. But you got to make sure that, you keep and honor the rules of camp. And his mom said this to his wife too. And she was just like, what do you mean, monsters? She didn't say that, but what do you mean? What, why are you so, because he even said how weird it was growing up, and that literally it's not just his family that are like that. There are new people that have moved to this that have acquired property there. But the people that are generational, like himself and his family, they all kind of follow that same kind of lore or whatever. So his dad Hank puts everything in his name just so he won't have to fight with probate court when he passes or pay taxes on something that's already his. And he gets real sick. Him and his wife and the 2 kids, they, like I said, they're not very old. He doesn't have to worry about them sneaking out and hanging out yet. And that was his words, yet. Now, the few times that he's gone with his wife, I guess his wife had woken up to scratching sounds being heard on a level below their bedroom, and they would hear kind of like just weird things happen periodically. One night she was sleeping, they were all sleeping, and she heard the family dog barking. Just a little dog. Tigger's bigger. My cat's bigger than this dog. Barking, but little dogs, they got a loud bark, especially when they're not stopping. And she's like, oh my God, I gotta get out of bed to shut him up. I don't want him waking the kids up. And it's just staring at the sliding glass doors to the deck, the enclosed deck on the second story of the house. Just going bonkers. There's no stairs. There's no access to the deck unless you're coming out from the house. And she's like, what the hell? And for some reason, she turns the light on, knowing that there's nothing there. And she sees this blackish brown blur and kind of rushes over to where everything kind of transponded, where this whatever it was jumped off. And he sees this creature staring back up at everyone. So she's like, oh my God, what the fuck is that? The dog is still barking. She, obviously looked down. Boom, there's this creature there. She's yelling for Trevor. Trevor kind of comes out. And by the time he comes out, it's already taken off into the woods. All he hears is the running through the deadfall and leaf litter. But it's, once again, very loud. So she tells Trevor what she had seen. She's like, she's like, our dog was going crazy. She's like, I turn the light on and I just see kind of like what looked like hindquarters of something running like a human, but it clearly looked like it had fur and what looked like a tail jump off the side of the deck. And then when I looked down, she's like, I see this creature or animal staring back up at me. She's like, and I don't know how to explain it, but it was standing on its back legs, staring up at me. That's when I started yelling for you. And the second I turn my back to yell for you, this thing starts running. You come out and you hear it running too. And he's like, so weird. It's probably a bear, or maybe, maybe it was a mountain lion, something. even though there's no mountain lions. And he even knew that. He's like, but then as he's laying down that night, he's like, I remember laying down and thinking, holy shit, that's what we saw when we were kids. You know, when me and, you know, my friends from college he's just thinking about it. And he's like, it must have been the same thing that me and that girl saw that night when my dad and her uncle came in. He's like, what the hell is that? You know, and he's getting really confused because things are starting to dawn on him now. So morning comes, he has a cup of coffee and he goes outside. He goes down the stairs and there's another sliding glass door underneath the deck and kind of like a concrete slab to walk out onto. And then the backyard. And he's looking around and he looks over at the fireplace and he remembers the night of the fireplace. And he starts to walk through along the tree line, and he's looking in and he goes over, he's looking for tracks or anything that he can find. There's an imprint or a divot in the ground from wherever this or whatever this thing was. Now he knows what it was, but had hit the ground and took off running. So he goes and he does a perimeter walk quick, and he looks out in the woods just beyond the tree line, and he's kind of looking, and it's fall. No snow yet, but it's chilly. And he looks and he's like, what the hell is that? And he starts to walk out into the woods. And he sees this dilapidated treehouse. And he's looking at the treehouse. He's looking at he's trying to figure out what the hell, why is there a treehouse? I didn't have a treehouse when I was little. Did I? No. He's looking at the trees and everything, and there's some very strange kind of gouges in the tree that look like they had been there for a long time. The treehouse itself is just dilapidated, but it looks like something had gone to town on it. And it smelled like stale urine. Like a really strong, musky, stale piss smell. And he's like, what the hell? So he goes in, tells his wife, there's a tree fort out there. And she's like, oh, really? Did your dad build it for you? And he's like, I didn't have a tree fort. He's like, but I also we didn't come here during fall. He's like, and when we did, he goes, I wasn't in the backyard. He goes, we had Christmas here a few times, but, nothing. And he's trying to think about where this tree fort, came about. So they pack up, and his dad is very ill. He was dying at the time. So they pack their stuff from the cabin, and they go to the house in Paoli, just like half hour away, if that. There's a home health nurse there. His dad wanted to pass in his own house. He did. He said, my dad is such a cool dude that he literally said, if you don't mind, I'd like to hire home health nurse or home health aides, but I want to die in my own home. If you don't want me to, because you'll be freaked out, put me in hospice, put me in the hospital, we'll figure it out from there. And of course, what's he going to do? Kick his dad out of his own house? So he's like, No, 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 you're good. And so he's like, we're going to stay here for the night, a couple nights, and then we'll head home. All right. He's like, Dad's kind of like, oh, I only got a couple of months left. You ever thought about, moving here permanently? And they start to have a conversation. Home health nurse is coming in and out of the room, and Hank looks at Trevor and says, shut the door. He goes, Jesus, I can't stand her. Just something old people would say. My dad, when he was in palliative care, he was quite a character. But he shuts the door and he looks at his dad and said, we stayed at camp last night, right? And he said, yeah. Did you have fun? And he goes, no. He goes, because whatever was at camp scared the living bejesus out of me and my wife. And that's why we're here. Until we figure out what's going on. He goes, I think it was possibly a bear, a mountain lion, or a big wolf. He goes, but I can't figure out how a bear and a wolf would be able to get up there. Mountain lion, I could see that better than, a bear or a wolf up there. Just big cats jump, big cats climb. And his dad says, listen, sit down now, please. And of course, the tree fort is brought up, and he sees the pain in his dad's heart. So he sits down, and like I said, he can see there's some sort of pain, and not a physical pain. Even though his dad is dying, it's an emotional pain. He can see it. And he looks at Trevor and he says, listen, your mother and I, when she was pregnant with you, made a promise to each other that we would not share this with you until one of us had passed and the other one was about to pass. There's a letter describing everything that happened. Everything that I'm going to share with you right now is in a letter that you would have received when I pass. And Trevor's like, what do you mean? He's kind of confused. He's like, am I adopted? He's like, wait, he just said Mom was pregnant with me. All right. So he's just these crazy shit. Cause, and his dad he starts to cry a little bit. And, I could hear the pain in Trevor's voice. Because even though they were well off, his dad was a blue collar worker. He was not rich. He was rich. He busted his ass since he was like a kid, and pretty much saved every penny, and advanced in his career of choice, which is I'm not going to share. So he said, you had a brother. And he kind of looks at his dad and he goes, had a brother? He goes, when? He's like, I never had a brother. He goes, and he said, well, your mother and I had a son that was born, or that died 2 years before you were born. He was 8 years older than you. And he passed away when he was 6. And he's kind of confused because there is never, all throughout his life, there had never been any kind of insinuation or any kind of just nothing to say, hey, So he's like, well, what do you mean? I had a brother and he died. And he said that tree fort out there, that was the tree fort that I built with him, or built for him. And that was before everything had happened. Beautiful childhood like you had. Grew up at the camp, grew up at home. Camp was different. One night we were at camp and he said we were cooking marshmallows in the fireplace. The tree fort was done. And Mark, your brother, and me and your mother were all sitting there. He goes, we only wanted one child. And when Mark passed away, we weren't going to have any more, but we had you. And so we're doing marshmallows. And Mark had started to talk about something that he saw during the day. And he said that he was in the tree fort. Now, he was 6 at the time. He was in the tree fort, and he saw a wolf man in the woods behind the tree fort, going deeper into Hoosier. And we didn't, we just put it as childhood or childish, imagination. And so we kind of just, what did it look like? And he described it. It was large, blackish gray, and it was just real big, but it stood on 2 legs and walked like a human. And then it would drop to all 4s and run away. And of course, who's going to believe him, So we kind of just blow it off, my wife and I, your mother and I, and we're at camp for the summer. Because we used to go to camp for the summer. We didn't just take trips, we'd stay. And at one time, the elevated deck had stairs. It had a latched gate to open it up and, to get to the stairs. So Mark wanted to camp out. And we put a tent out back there. And we let him camp out there. He went to sleep. The door was obviously unlocked for him. It was safe. The first night he stayed out there, he came running into our room, crying and saying that the wolf man was growling at him from down on the ground. And, we just let him sleep with us. We brought him into bed, let him sleep with us. And the next day I go out and I look and I don't see anything. I end up going over to our friends, and we'll just call him Ed. the friend who his niece was with Trevor that night. And I explained, to Ed what Mark was seeing. And Trevor's like, wait, Ed knew that I had a brother? And he's like, all of our friends, all of your family. We just kept it a secret because we didn't want to talk about him after what happened. So he's like, okay. And so I tell him what, Mark is seeing, and I asked him, have you seen anything like this? And Ed's like, no. He's like, I've heard some howls. I've heard something run through the woods periodically behind the house, but I've not seen anything like that. I often thought that the howl sounded a little too big and different than a coyote. And he's like, yeah, well, that's weird, huh? He's like, because Mark is saying he sees this. And Ed kind of looks at me baffled, and, oh shit. And he's like, all right, well, whatever. Maybe it's just childhood imagination. And that's... So his dad decides to sleep in the tent with Mark one night. And he does. And nothing happens. Nothing. 2 nights in a row. Nothing happened. So Mark decides, okay, well, it must have been my imagination. I'm going to try to sleep out here by myself, Dad. And, he was very headstrong, independent, things that we didn't allow you to become by protecting you too much. So the next day, he's going to sleep in the tent by himself. All day he was playing outside. He was playing in his tree fort. And he came running up out of his tree fort, out of breath, crying a little bit. And once again, talking about the wolf man. So we told him, absolutely not, and we were trying to figure out if he had seen some movies, if he had, what. We couldn't figure it out because we never talked about anything remotely horror related. And he doesn't sleep in the tent. And a couple weeks go by, and he doesn't mention it anymore. He's kind of stopped mentioning it. So, we kind of figured, he's not seeing it anymore. Right around, he'd said it was like right around dinner time. Your mother's cooking. I'm out front, and I was putting in the light pole that's out there. And I hear your mother screaming, and I hear a loud racket, and I hear this weird noise that sounded like your brother, but it was just a horrific sound. And I remember running around the back of the side of the house to the back, and I come around and I hear your mother screaming, and I look up at her, and she's on the deck, and she's pointing at the tree fort. And I start to run, and I get midway to the tree fort, and I'm in the backyard, and I freeze. I stopped dead in my tracks because what I saw was I can't explain. I don't hear your brothers making any noise anymore. I don't hear it. But I see something stand up in the tree fort. And it was ducking down. And it was huge. It was hairy. It was large. I could see ears. I could see everything that a wolf would look like, but larger. He said this thing turned around and looked at me, because it hears your mother screaming. And it's grayish black, and it's got blood coming out of its mouth. And he says the next thing it did, it picked your brother's body up, that little body, and hoisted it up into the air, almost like it showed me it. And like a football player, put it close to its chest and jumped out of the tree fort. And when it landed, it shot your brother off to the side. It turned around and looked at me. And it looked at your brother's body. It ran over to it again. And I'm frozen. He said, and I am so ashamed of myself because I've never been able to do anything because I've been so afraid. I've never been so afraid, and I've been so afraid because I froze. I was in shock. I was in disbelief. I was afraid. I was mad. And it grabbed your brother's body again and shook him like a dog, like a rabid dog, and kind of whipped it out of the wood line there where the trail was. That's why there's no trail there, because we let it grow up. And I could see when Mark hit the ground that he was dead. He was definitely dead. And this thing stood up and looked at me and smiled. And not like a dog smiles. Not like like a husky or German shepherd. Any kind of dog with a longer, elongated muzzle. How they do that thing with their teeth. This thing smiled at me. He said I could see in its eyes, in its expressions, that it was happy. And it growled once more and just ran off into the woods, deep. And it was so fast. And I ran over to your brother. He said, I wasn't able to move until it was out of my sight. And he could see that his dad was just really just killing himself, like beating himself up terribly over it. So he said, I picked him up and I held him and I screamed to your mother, call 911, call somebody. Law enforcement, police came, ambulance, Ed. And we explained what happened. We explained, and we weren't investigated. They didn't say anything to us. They didn't blame us because it was quite evident from the marks and everything. But we told them exactly, and they kind of looked at us like we were nuts. And they sent game warden or animal control out there. the Department of ENCON, or Environmental Conservation, went out there. And when the investigation was done, they declared it a wild dog or feral dog attack. And but we knew exactly what it was, and they said we mentally created this because of the trauma that we saw. They said that there was probably more than one, maybe two or three, and because of witnessing that our brains told us that, what we saw was this instead of what they're trying to tell us it is. We saw a Dogman attack and kill your brother. They tried to tell us that it was feral dog. And from that day on, we almost got a divorce. We almost sold the camp. Ed ended up seeing the thing twice. And he said that his dad never liked guns. There was something that must have happened to his dad as a child or something. But he never hunted. He didn't like guns. But Ed did. Ed hunted. And Ed believed Hank's and his wife's experience. What they said happened. And he had gone out into the woods hunting this thing down. And he had seen it once or twice, and he had taken a shot at it once. Had bluff charged him, and he had shot at it, and it took off running. But he had came, and he looked right at Hank, and he said, "I saw it. You're not imagining it. I don't know why they're telling you imagined this, but I know what you saw. I saw it myself. I shot at it." And he said, "I'm sorry, your mother's sorry. We just couldn't tell you. We couldn't think about him. We loved him so much that it ruined our lives until the day we found out that your mother was pregnant with you. And then the day you were born was the day that we made that decision to just never, ever talk about Mark. We talked to Ed about it. We talked to the family about it. But we knew that thing and others like it were out in those woods. And we never wanted anything to happen to you." And he said, I sat there just in shock. He's like, I wasn't mad at my dad. He said, I just couldn't understand. And then I started to open up with my dad, and I told my dad about that night with Ed's niece. The night me and my friends were from college there. A couple different times that we had seen things. And then he made me promise that, that I would keep my kids safe. And he said, and honestly, I would honestly invest in a firearm and, go to the range and learn how to shoot. Practice shooting so you can, if this thing ever comes back, he goes, you will be able to defend yourself and your family. He said, I've never liked firearms. I've never liked them. He said, but that's one of the things that I've always kicked myself in the ass for, was not having a firearm that day and not hunting that thing down myself. And about a month later, his dad passed. He had, walked out to the cabin area, or the tree fort area, and looked around and just saw the markings, the claw marks in the tree, and the damage that had been done in the old. But it's just like nature had started to take its toll on the wood anyway. And he ended up ripping the tree fort down. Burning the wood, except for one piece where his brother and dad had carved their names in a piece of clapboard wall. Dad and Mark, in the year 1987. And he saved that, but he burnt all the rest of the wood. And he said, I was not mad at all about everything. He got confused. And he said, unfortunately, he's like, the only person I could talk to was Ed about it, and Ed's older. Ed's a little younger than my dad, but still. And he told me about when he went out there and he saw it and it charged at him. But the second he pulled that rifle up and aimed it right at it, it kind of stopped. And Ed took the shot. He said he missed it, but it was enough to scare it away. So imagine finding out your whole life was designed to keep you safe from the day you were born. Everything that you knew was not what it was. And it explained all of the little quirks that he noticed. Like his mom and dad were normal at the house, at their normal house. Just, they were fine. But at the camp, at their second house, he could ride his bike in Paoli at the house till dusk, till nighttime, to hang out with his friends, play ball, whatever. At camp, no. And that just explained everything to him. And now he said, I have pistols. He said, my wife knows how to shoot. I shoot. He said, I have rifles, shotguns, and pistols waiting to go. He said, and if I ever see the thing, if it ever even steps foot in my backyard or my front yard or wherever it is, he said, I'm going to put it down. And yeah, imagine your whole life being a freaking lie. But how can you be mad at your parents for protecting you from their own traumatic incident that occurred to them? You can't. You really can't. You can be upset. He said he was upset, but he wasn't mad. He understood. And it explained everything. It explained all of the strangeness that, like I said, all the just quirks of camp. He's actually thinking about selling his parents' house and living permanently in the camp house. But his wife doesn't want to do that. So, and he's not going to ever sell that either. So, anyway, that was today's upload. That was today's experience. Trevor and his dad, Henry. Wow. It just, that poor, I feel bad for him. And I laughed because I didn't laugh at him, but I laughed because of how he said, when he said, as he said, we decided when, your mom was pregnant with you and you were in your mother's womb. And then he kept going and he's like, am I freaking adopted? And then he realized, oh shit, he just said it. But it's so sad. It's tragic, And then for law enforcement and everything else to just say feral dog attack, wild dog attack. And you all know that I can't stand that, It's, the species is African wild dog, but if you type in wild dog, boom, the species African wild dog pops up, because that's what it is. But feral dog, it's a freaking tragedy. It's a freaking sad case right there. And finding out when your dad's on his deathbed is even sadder. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed today's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd really like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.